Hi everyone, welcome to Learn. So this is going to be the second video on the Linux commands. So in the previous video, we saw one of the most important command in Linux, which is the ls command. Not only that, we also discussed multiple parameters that we can pass along with the ls command to get multiple and other important details. Okay. So what we'll do a small recap of all the things that we discussed in the previous video so that you can have a refresher and then we can have a base that is necessary for today's video. Okay. So the first command that we discussed was the ls command. So what does ls command do? It basically gives you the name of all the files and directories in the current directory. It will just give you the names. Then the next command that we talked about was ls-l command, and what it does basically gives you the detailed information about all the files and directories. Okay, so the previous command will just give you the names, and if you want more details about the files and directories like the permission, the last modified time, who is the user, who is the group uh, uh, the user belongs to, and those kind of details. So for that, you can use ls-l command. Okay, so this is one of the most important commands that we have uh, in Linux. Okay. Then we also talked about the permissions of directories and files. So we saw that when we type ls-l command, we get certain characters in the first column, right? So we found out what those character means and how can we find out the different permissions of owner, group, and others. Then we discussed this command, which is ls-lh, and it basically does the same thing which ls-l do. It gives you the same information, except one thing that is different here. The size of the file that we will get in this case will be in a human readable format like KB, MB, and GB. So it becomes easier for us to find out what is the particular size of this file. Okay. Otherwise, with ls-l, we usually get the size in bytes. Then the next command that we talked about was ls-a command, and it shows all the hidden directories or files in the current directory. Okay, so we talked about how we use hidden directories like pgpass, environment, where we want to store some information about the environment or some credentials. Okay, so in that case, we can use ls-a command and we can get the details of those hidden files and directories. Then the next command that we talked about was ls-lt, and T here means time. So what it does, it basically sorts all the directories and files in certain order based on the last modification time. So file or directory, which is the most recent one or which has been modified recently, will be at the top, and the file or directory, which is the oldest or which has been modified at the last, will be at the lowest. Okay. So I hope you are able to recollect what we studied in the previous video, and we are going to discuss few more parameters that we can pass with this ls command. So the first command that we are going to discuss today is ls-ltr command. Okay. Now we have already talked about ls-lt command. Okay. And if you remember that it basically sorts the files or the directories based on the last modification time. So the file or directory, which is the most recent one, is at the top, will be at the top, and the file or the directory, which is the oldest one, will be at the bottom. Okay. Now, suppose due to any reason, if you want to reverse this order, okay. So in that case, what you can do, you can basically type this command ls-ltr. So the R here means the reverse. Okay. So that basically reverses the order. So now again, the file will be sorted based on the modification time only, but the difference would be in this case, we will have the most recent file at the bottom and the oldest file at the top. Okay. Now let's jump to the Linux terminal and see how it works. So let me first type ls-lt command. So once I type this command, we can see that all the directories and files are sorted based on the last modification time. So this test directory is the most recent one, and hence it is coming at the top. And then we have got 1 GB underscore random file. This is the oldest one, and hence it is coming at the bottom. Now suppose I want to find out what is the most recent one. Okay, so here we have got just few files, right? But say in production environment, in production server, you might have thousands or 10,000 files. Okay? So in this case, once you type this command ls-lt, the list of files or directories will not fit in a single window, right? So the most recent file will not even be visible to you. So in that case, you might have to use this ls-ltr command, so that the most recent file will be at the bottom and the oldest file will be at the top. So if you are interested in knowing uh, the most recent file, then I would suggest to use ls-ltr command. So once I type that, you can see the most recent directory or file is coming at the bottom. And in case you are interested in finding out the most oldest one, then you can type simply ls-lt. So in this way, we should be able to find out the the oldest file or directories. Now let's move to the next command. The next command that we have is ls-l uppercase. Okay. Now the difference between the first part and the second part is, in the first part the s is lowercase, and in the second part the s is uppercase. Okay. So what it does, it basically sorts the directories or files, okay, based on the size. So you see the uppercase here. The uppercase is basically the sorting based on size. So let me jump to the terminal and type this command ls-ls. Okay. Now you see that the directories or files are sorted in a certain fashion, okay, based on the size. So the file which is the largest one is at the top, and the file which is the smallest one is at the bottom. So sample underscore file.csv is of size 41 bytes, and hence it's at the bottom, and 1 GB underscore random underscore file is at the top, okay, because it's of size 1 GB. Now suppose if you want to reverse this order, what we'll do, you can simply use R, okay, L, S, and then R. Basically what it does, it reverses the order. Now you see the earlier order that we were getting, where the largest file was coming at the top. In this case, now the largest file is coming at the bottom. Okay. Okay. Now let's move to the next command. The next command that we have here is ls-r command. Okay. Now what it does, it basically lists all the files in the directory, and if there are directories inside those directories, it will also list them. Okay. Now what do I mean by that? So let me type ll. So you see that it gave me the list of files and directories in the current folder, right? So we have got multiple files, and then we have got test directory. Now what if you want to know if we have any content inside test directory or not? Okay. So in this case, what you can do, you can either type ll and then give the directory name. Okay, this will work. But now we have got another directory inside, test underscore directory 2. Now say you also want to find out what is the content of test underscore directory 2. Now what you need to do, you would first change the directory to test directory, and then you will type ll then test directory 2. Okay. So then you can find out what is the content of test directory 2. Okay. So this is a longer process, right? You had to write multiple commands. So now suppose if you want to do it in a single command, what you can do, you can simply type ll-r command. So what it will do, it will first list out all the files and directories in the current directory. Okay. So it gave you the list of all the files and directories in the current directory. Then what it will do, it will go inside this directory. Okay. That's what recursively mean. So it will go inside this directory and then print the content inside this directory. So under test directory, we have got two files, 1 GB underscore random file and 2 MB underscore random file, and we have got another directory, test directory 2. Okay. Now what -r will do, as it is recursive, it will again go inside test directory 2 and print out the content of this test directory 2. Okay. And here we can see inside test directory 2 we have got just one file, hello.txt. Okay. So this recursively means this process will keep on continuing until we are just left with the files. Okay, and there are no further subdirectories inside those. So this will keep on happening. Now let's move to the next command. Now this is the next command that we have. Okay, ls with wildcard pattern. Now this is the last command that we are going to discuss in our video, but this command is also very helpful. Now I'll give you a scenario. Suppose, okay, here we have got just a few files. Okay, so it's easy to find out that we have got one CSV file and then two text files, right? But imagine in the production you will get around 10,000 or 50,000 files, and in those you want to move all those text files to another folder. Okay, and before that you need to identify how many text files are there in this folder. So what we'll do, it will be very tough for you to find out how many text files we have got, right? So you can use this command ls and then supplement that with wildcard pattern. Okay. So what we can do, in order to find out how many text files we have got, we can type ls and then we can type star.txt. Now what does this mean? It basically means that list all the directories or files whose names ends with .txt. Okay. Star means it can contain anything. Okay. So it can contain anything, but the last part of the file or directory should only be .txt. Okay. And once I type enter, you can see that it returns only those files whose name ends with .txt. Impressive, right? Okay. Now let's try one more example. Okay. Now suppose you want to find out all the files or directories which have file in between, which have word file in between. Okay. So what you can do, you can type ls star file and then star. Okay. Now what does it mean? It basically means that any file or directory, okay, which has file in between. Okay. So star means it can have any number of characters in the start. It can have any number of characters, including empty string at the end. Okay. So indirectly, the file can start with file keyword. The file or directory can end with file keyword, and it can have file in between the name as well. Okay. This is what this pattern means. And once I type enter, you see it returns a list of names. Okay, and we can see that for all the names we have got this file keyword in between. Okay. So this is what ls with wildcard pattern do. So I will not extend this video any further. I hope you are able to learn ls command and the different parameters that we can pass to that. Thank you.